Hello and welcome back to Ray's Game Videos and more Monster Hunter Wilds. Today I'm back for episode 3 of our Things series. Weird, useful, hopefully interesting things you might not know about. And with many being shared by the community here in the comments, we reference whenever we find one from there. But with that said, let's get started. First up then, a really cool detail to do with the Guardians and their unique version of rotting that can happen. As you can see, Guardians can indeed rot like a normal monster, which is to say when you slay them, eventually time passes and they start that rotting process. The thing is, with Guardians, you actually get something visually cool and unique, but also worth melding points and in good amounts too if you do this regularly. This mechanic is something you'd actually been told about in the tooltips though, but it's something a lot of people, myself included, just never naturally saw and didn't know about. I was first made aware of this by a Twitter post by the user VirgoC, so credit to them for making me aware of it at least initially. Here's what I learned in my testing though. Guardians either rot or crystallize after death. The process will take a few minutes, a full 5-minute period to be specific in my testing today. The Guardian, when rotten, will take on a noticeably darker colouring, and you get the rotten symbol over its icon on the map as a green skull. But when crystal, it takes two forms technically. One is the beginning process of turning to crystal, which begins about 3 minutes into the way, showing up as little shards of crystal appearing all over its body, letting you know you've got a crystal form coming. After the remaining 2 minutes then, that's when the body becomes officially crystal, referred to as a crystallized carcass. You can also see it gets a new icon next to the monster icon on the map, which is just a little crystal. Some other cool details to know is the fact that you can carve these special crystal bodies for unique rewards. The 3 rewards possible are crushed crystals, cloudy crystals, and coruscating crystals. Considered facility items though, they sadly don't count towards your special items for that one achievement, but as you can see, they can actually be used in melding, specifically for RNG melding decorations. We say the clouded crystal worth 100 points for that, and the coruscating worth 300. Not bad at all. You might also wonder if this means you better not carve the body though when you kill it initially. And the thing is, it's actually fine to do. I carved this Guardian Rathalos fully, then after it turned to crystal, it kind of refreshed and allowed me to carve it again for all the crystals. Interestingly, this also works on the small Guardian monsters, meaning the Guardian Seikret. As you can see, after they rot, they can also potentially turn to crystal, though they don't seem to offer the same crystal rewards as the large monsters do, which is fair enough. But I think this is a really cool mechanic that it's quite hard to naturally encounter it with Sim. It might be the case, it might be true, that you also need the body to die in a specific place. In this locale, we have those wilk pools, which as we know, Guardians will run up to charge at. It's said that if they die here, that's what makes this crystal process possible. Now in my testing, that was proven true so far. I killed a bunch outside of the pools and only ever got a rotten corpse. But you know, when I did kill the Rathalos and the Seikret in the pool, that's when it did turn to crystal successfully. Some say it's possible without, so it's worth a check even then, I'd say, if you didn't kill a Guardian in the pool. But the tooltip about this doesn't say it needs to be in a wilk pool, so it's a bit vague on that aspect. But yeah, I just think this is a really cool, awesome detail for the game. But let's continue that theme of rare post-death concepts and talk about the wyvernsprout. Did you know that one of the hardest Rarity 6 special items in the game is this strange mushroom here, the wyvernsprout? A Rarity 6 special item counts towards the 10 Rarity 6 special items you need for the achievement, Explorer of the Eastlands. There's technically 11 in the game to my understanding, but wyvernsprout are particularly awkward because they only come as a rare spawn after a dead monster rots, so you have to be pretty lucky. But in an extra cool detail, some of them turn to bone piles you can search for materials, like the normal spawned ones. That was suggested for the game in dev interviews and such before release, but it seems what they meant was just small monsters, not large monsters. Either way, the wyvernsprout will occur on a rotten carcass only if you're lucky. But if it does, you will need to be quick because the rotting process will continue, and so they'll eventually turn into that bone pile or just despawn, meaning you'll miss the wyvernsprout entirely if you're too slow. The best way to gather these then is to kill big herds of small monsters together, like the ones we can easily find here in the Windward Plains. And then with lots of rotting attempts going on at once, you're able to roll the odds across many kills effectively. I did this by killing multiple packs around one area, then just waiting nearby and looking at the map specifically. As they start to rot, the icons change and give that rot icon. So if wyvernsprout appears on any of these rotting bodies, it changes the icon to this little fungus thing, letting you know that's got a wyvernsprout on it. Don't worry too much, you have at least a little bit of time before the body turns into a bone pile or just despawns. But yes, if it does, you'll miss it, so do be quick. Also, the wyvernsprout is a special item after all, and so it can be traded for different rewards. But probably the main draw of this is the achievement, so I hope that helps. Next, let's talk about the stalwart guards, aka what people call stream clashes or beam clashes. This is a really cool, seemingly lesser known mechanic that a few people referenced in our comments last time. It's something that I actually had on the list to talk about though, after seeing some cool clips that I wanted to share. But first, let's talk about what this actually is. There's a kind of special clash that you can do when a monster uses any channeled attack, like say new Udra with the flame breath mechanic, or Gravios with the much more intense beam of fire. Now with weapons that can guard, you can hold your own against these attacks by guarding during it. And this is what's known officially in the game as a stalwart guard. You will still take the fire bite, but you can guard and then move side to side out of the fire, or even push forward against it in a cool way to close the distance. It would seem though for certain weapons there is a counter-attack option. Like with lance, you can use the counter rush, letting you rush forward through the beam and smash something like grav to interrupt the attack, which is really cool. I've also seen people do this with all kinds of weapons for guarding in general, like with greatsword here, but I wanted to test if the counter-attack was unique to lance. Now as expected, it was fine with the lance, but say with charge blade, it wasn't an option, even after many attempts and tests that I did. However, technically with the charge blade, you could immediately follow this up into an SAED because you just guarded an attack, so that's always an option. Naturally though, if your weapon can guard like gunlance, then you can do the stalwart guard. But lance at very least has a unique way to interrupt the channel with its own charge forward mechanic, and I think that's really cool for the weapon. Lance deserves it. So yeah, consider stalwart guarding those channel attacks sometime. Moving on, I want to talk about a really cool thing that you can do with dahaad's super attack. You know when he kind of pulls himself together, raises this huge ice pillar around him, does some spins in there, and then explodes in an icy explosion. This can be dealt with by dropping a rock or a boulder down and hiding behind it, right? But you know, there's quite a few ways that you can technically have iframes and dodge it in that way. One example of that would be what I do here with the switch axe sword counter. If you time this correctly, you will fully sword counter the explosion, which if you charged up could be comboed into full release. As you can see, dahaad is actually exposed after this super attack at his chest. As a weak point, you can focus strike, but you'll only be able to do that if you iframe it in some way while you're up close. This also works, as I've seen, with discerning dodge of bow, as you just keep spamming the evade. Logically, you'd see that with dual blades and their perfect evade. You can also longsword counter it and so on. Really cool stuff. But if you're not using one of the weapons that has something like that, you can still dodge it and be in position for that focus strike punish by using a simple barrel bomb, which will work to knock you down, and then while you're lying there, you have iframes. So with some good timing like this, you can fully evade the explosion and be in position to get up and maybe focus strike that chest. Pretty cool trick to be able to do. But yeah, this was just something I saw all over Reddit and Twitter with different weapons, clips and setups to achieve some kind of iframe for that super attack, and it's very useful to know. Okay, next up we got some tips that are going to be easy to apply that should be really nice quality of life stuff for you. Firstly, one to do with the pop-up camps. Speaking with a support desk, you can obviously come to edit pop-up camps where you can mess with all of the camps of every locale. For this, there's just two things that I want to recommend for camp gear options. Firstly, we have the training barrel. It's a really good idea to have these at all your camps across the locales, as we'll soon discuss. And the other thing is camp food delivery, because what this does down there is it's going to occasionally provide you with some extra goods. So if you just want some extra rations and that kind of thing, it's nice to just be delivered to you. They're not always there though, so you need to have it down and time needs to pass, but occasionally when you come back to your pop-up camp, the food will be there like it is there. But the main thing here is actually the training barrel. A lot of the stuff that you're going to find in the camp is ultimately cosmetic and, you know, nice and all, but not impactful in any direct way. So the fact that the food delivery and the barrel are directly relevant and do actually do something for you, that's why I think you should have them at all of your camps. In any case, it's basically the training barrel we experienced in the first story mission. It does mean you can attack it and practice if you really want, but in the case of say dual blades here, it means right before I go into the hunt, I can activate my demon mode and fill my demon gauge, so I've got archdemon mode ready to go at the start of a fight, which is just a nice little thing to be able to do if I pop back to a camp and quickly refill it or something. And obviously this applies to many different weapons. Say charge blade, filling up some vials before you go get in the hunt. Or say longsword, if you're really willing to go the distance and attack it and do a bunch of spirit blade combos. Obviously this is a free way to level up your weapon, going from white to yellow, all the way to red if you really want. Though yellow will last longer, so maybe just put it to yellow. You can open a fight basically already leveled up. So it's the fact that the camp can technically help you prep for a fight. It's just a cool little detail to maybe make better use out of them. For this next tip, a little shout out to Tiresome Boy who Discord messaged me with this little idea. Something I've talked about in a couple videos recently is the fact that it's a really good idea to have a set specifically for buffing, but also gathering. It basically means you're going to get extra resources. As you gather might seeds, you'll get an extra one. Maybe you'll get extra special items, or when you're mining ore, picking up bones, that kind of thing. That's the geologist and botany skills. However, there's also the buffing set that has speed eating, item prolonger, free meal. It's a great idea to run those because if you're popping things like demon drug and other buffs that are pretty impactful, it's nice to be able to speed up that process, but also occasionally pop the free meal, as you can see. So I've just eaten that might seed for completely free. Same thing for the demon drugs, might pills, whatever you might be using. It just has no cost. But the big thing here is actually item prolonger. It's giving the item effect a 50% duration increase. So 30 minutes for demon drug, it now lasts 45 minutes. The idea of having a buffing set then is to put on the set, consume your buffs, then swap to the real set you're going to use. An item prolonger's effects stay. But it was Tiresome Boy who DM'd me saying, hey, there's actually a way to get all of the important skills from the buffing set, all of the important skills from gathering, and just put them into one set. So this is how it's done. We have the sealed hood, which provides you 3 levels of botanist. We have Chatacabra mail here just for speed eating. We have the battle gloves, which provides 3 levels of free meal. Battle coil, which has item prolonger, all levels there, and the Azus pants for 3 levels of geologist. With that, we have the remaining decorations to provide whatever we want. The final level of botany, and the 2 more levels we need for speed eating. The rest are just bits of convenience. So things like friendship for wide range, just to AoE provide those buffs to friends, or adaptability, so that when you're gathering, you're not having to deal with heat and cold. You can also run the specimen decoration too, because when you're gathering small monster parts, like the insects, sometimes they get destroyed when you're trying to gather those. This prevents that. So it's a pretty nice thing to be able to run to do both buffing and gathering in one set, instead of having to have 2 sets for the different reasons. Most of these pieces are going to give you Forager's Luck as well, which when you've got 3 pieces of, it's going to increase the chance of finding rares at gathering points, giving you that extra reward when you're gathering those. And all that is by having different cloth pieces. So the sealed hood, you got the battle set, the Azus pants. You get these things by trading for those materials in specific. So take the trade here with Ren. We have sealed cotton here for some of those special items. And that's how you get access to those special sets. If they're not being offered to you right now, just consider resting at the tent and it'll refresh the trade options. Now you may have also noticed that we did have 1 decoration for Tool Specialist, which helps kind of cut into the cooldown of your mantles, which can be really annoying. So if you do have a chance, the simple idea of running a mantle restore set could be something to think about. This was commented by Tuckshot Bandit, where basically if you have any downtime between hunts and you're going to leave the game for a second, it might be worth it to just make a set that has 5 levels. That way you cut the cooldown of the mantle down by half. So as we can see, just by putting the set on, I've gone from a 10-minute cooldown on my corrupted mantle to a 5-minute cooldown. There was a really cool idea though, and something I just want to highlight in this video, in that you can use the training area to instantly refresh your mantles, but sadly the trick doesn't seem to work. It's a cool idea though, because as you can see, as you enter the training area, your mantles come back. So let me put my corrupted mantle on, and then take it off, and then you can see that the cooldown started and then immediately refreshed. So I can come in here when it's on cooldown and instantly get it back. But sadly, the moment that you leave the training area, the current active cooldown of my 4 minutes here instantly back. So I thought there could be an interesting way you could get around that by entering the training area, getting your mantle back, and then speaking with Alma to go do your quest or investigation or whatever. So let me just throw myself into a random one just to show you. The mantle was off cooldown there, so as we load in, it's sadly back to whatever active cooldown it was currently on. So a cool trick idea, but one that doesn't seem to work sadly. Speaking of buffing and gathering and tricks to do with that, I've got my gathering set on. We're going to go gather something real quick. So here's some might seeds. Let me grab that. As you can see, botanist activates and we get an extra might seed. Cool. But that's not the tip, obviously. The tip here is the fact that it goes on cooldown. 15 minutes in this case. So I can't gather these again until that time passes. But thanks to a tip from this person, Canadia Ryan, I really hope I pronounced that right, you can refresh this cooldown instantly by basically leaving the locale you're in. So let me just load into a different locale real quick. So that should reset as we've gone to a different locale, so we just go straight back. So as we load back into the same area, I can't believe that worked. Yeah. Might see immediately back. So instead of a 15-minute wait, you can immediately come back and infinitely farm the resources that you might be after, things that could be harder to get your hands on, or say supplies that you're particularly low on. This is a particularly good one because you have the pop-up camp in Area 13 in the ruins of Wyvria, and you have not one but 2 might seed locations. With the gathering set, we're getting 3 per, so you can use this trick to get a bunch. There are obviously more might seeds on this map, like there's more over here, and 2 more spawns right next to each other here as well, over by Area 6. So with this, you could get a bunch of might seeds per run, stocking up a quick, say, 100, and then not having to do that for a very long time. Really speeding up the process. Great tip. The last specific tip that I want to give for this video then is to do with this setting. Target, camera, control type. As you can see, it's under the camera options menu on page 3, and I'm on type 1. You can pick this whatever way you want, but type 1 just means press it once and you aim the camera at the monster. Press it twice and you face the direction the hunter's facing. So as you can see, my hunter is facing the opposite direction to where my camera is. Double tap L1, sudden 180. Same thing here. However, if I've got my weapon out, I've got focus mode on, well obviously I'm not doing that. But the problem with doing it this way is I've got this kind of slow 180 process, as you can see, compared to, you know, just double tapping like that. But there's the other aspect of this we can consider. Targeting a monster, and now that it's my target, I will press L1 once and it immediately focuses on that target. So I'm in the middle of a fight, the monster gets behind me, and instead of doing this, I instead just tap L1 once and immediately I'm looking at it. And differently, we can do this while in focus mode as well, allowing me to instantly focus on my target. It's just a really nice tip that I put in one of my hunter tip videos that people thought was good, so figured I'd include it here. But yeah, there you have it, a new episode of things you might not have known about in Monster Hunter Wilds. As always, guys, if you do have anything you'd like to add to the topics that we talked about today, any extra tips or information, you can let us know in the comments. But if you have an idea or thing that might fit in one of these videos, let us know, and we might just include it in the next one. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching, see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.